William Wallace, the Guardian of Scotland. In the mists of the 13th century, when the Scottish Highlands echoed with the cries of clans, when mist and blood mingled on the fields, a man arose who became more than flesh and blood. His name was William Wallace, and he was destined to be a legend, the voice of freedom, and the blade of vengeance against tyranny. His life was filled with battles, betrayals, and pain, but in every moment he carried within him a flame that neither iron, nor fire, nor treachery could extinguish. Childhood and the birth of a rebel. William Wallace was born around 1270, in Elderslie, a small village near Paisley. He came from a noble but not rich family. His father, Malcolm Wallace, was a minor landowner, a man of honor who taught his son that freedom was worth more than gold, and dignity was dearer than life itself. From an early age, William was trained in combat, archery, and swordplay. But what distinguished him most was not just his skill with weapons, but his iron will. Scotland in those times was not free. The English crown sought to break its proud clans and turn the country into a mere province. Wallace grew up witnessing the cruelty of English soldiers, the suffering of his people, and the humiliation of his homeland. These scars remained with him forever. The wound of love. Legends tell of Marion Bradefute, a woman Wallace loved deeply. Their love blossomed in secret, amidst the dangers of occupied Scotland. But fate struck mercilessly. English soldiers killed Marion, and this wound lit a fire of vengeance within William. From that day, he no longer belonged to himself. He became the sword of his people, and every drop of blood he shed on the battlefield was his oath of vengeance for love lost. The beginning of the fight. William Wallace gathered men who believed in freedom, not gold. Farmers, shepherds, artisans, simple Scots who had nothing but their faith and their land. He forged them into a force stronger than iron. His tactics were cunning. He struck suddenly, like a wolf, disappeared into the woods and hills, and returned again, leaving fear behind him. The English called him a rebel, a criminal, a savage. But for the Scots, he was a leader, a protector, and soon a symbol. His army grew, and with it, grew the hope of a people long shackled. The Battle of Stirling Bridge, 1297. Wallace's greatest triumph came in September 1297. At Stirling Bridge, where English forces vastly outnumbered the Scots, Wallace displayed genius. Instead of fighting in the open, he lured the English across the narrow bridge. When the enemy was split, he struck mercilessly. English knights drowned in the river, soldiers fell beneath Scottish blades. The English army, thought to be invincible, was shattered. For the first time in many years, Scotland breathed freely. William Wallace was declared Guardian of Scotland, the protector of the kingdom until the rightful king could ascend the throne. The shadow of betrayal. But freedom was fragile. Not all Scottish nobles supported Wallace. Many sought personal gain, others feared England's wrath. When Wallace led his forces south into England, some clans abandoned him. His victories could not overshadow the lack of unity in Scotland. In 1298, at the Battle of Falkirk, the English King Edward I, known as Longshanks, struck back. The English longbowmen, deadly from a distance, mowed down the Scottish ranks. Wallace fought bravely, but the battle was lost. After Falkirk, he resigned his position as guardian, yet he did not abandon the fight. He continued to resist, to inspire, to lead small groups in raids and ambushes. The price of freedom. Edward I hated Wallace not just as an enemy but as a symbol. Capturing him meant crushing the spirit of rebellion. And so, betrayal did what swords could not. In 1305, Wallace was betrayed by John de Menteith, a Scottish knight loyal to Edward. He was captured, bound in chains, and taken to London. There, in Westminster Hall, he was put on trial for treason. To this, Wallace uttered words that would echo for centuries. "I could not be a traitor, for I was never Edward's subject." But the verdict was predetermined. The martyr's death. On August 23, 1305, William Wallace was executed in the cruelest way possible. He was hanged, drawn, and quartered. His head was placed on London Bridge, and his limbs were sent to the corners of England as a warning. But instead of fear, it gave birth to rage. Instead of silence, his death inspired voices to rise. Wallace became a martyr, a saint of freedom, whose blood nourished the roots of Scotland's struggle. The flame that never dies. Years after Wallace's death, Robert the Bruce rose to continue the fight, leading Scotland to victory at Bannockburn in 1314. But even Bruce's triumph was built upon the foundation Wallace had laid. His story was retold in ballads, chronicles, and songs. His name became immortal. For Scotland, William Wallace was not just a warrior. He was the voice of defiance, the spirit of resistance, the living embodiment of the belief that freedom is worth any price. Even today, centuries later, his words still burn like fire. Every man dies, not every man truly lives. And in those words lies the truth of William Wallace's life. He lived not for himself, but for his people. He died not as a rebel, but as a legend.